Welcome to another My Testimonies of God video. This one is approximately the year of 1973. Uh, and um, Gerald, he was a CPA, and he worked for the Tri-State Trucking, and they had a red Camaro race car, I think with a 396 with a humongous two-barrel carburetor on it that let them race in a specific class. And he kind of headed that up and worked on all that, so he was mechanically inclined. Okay, so when they petitioned the court and brought me into their home, they had two cars. They had a 64 two-door Malibu, plain Jane, cheapo base model, had a 327 with a stick shift in it, two-door, low, and white. And then they had an Oldsmobile 88 with some big beefed up V8 in it. I don't quite remember exact cubes on it. Anyway, posi track fast. So those are the two cars they had. Well, we kind of Gerald turned the Malibu into a project car. So eventually we took the 327 out, put in a 350 with a 4-bolt main, put in a 12-inch clutch, a Muncie 4-speed transmission. We reversed the motor mounts so that they moved the engine back almost 8 inches, 7 or 8 inches, which gave you immense weight transfer. Doesn't sound like much. Had to cut out place for the distributor and go into the firewall and so on. But one day we had it up on jack stands or something, whatever it wasn't very stable. Because here's the testimony. We were out there and he was doing something, and and so I was tightening up something or working on maybe the drive shaft had to be shortened and I was putting that back in. I think that was it because I kind of remember being towards the rear of the car. So I don't know if me pushing or pulling or tugging or twisting the wrench did it, but the car started to fall. And so their driveway there in Joplin had a slight incline. So this car fell backwards, and as it came down on me, I believe there was uh, tires on one end or the other, but the part came down on me, there wasn't. And so as it rolled me, as it came down and rolled, of course I was hurting. Gerald come running out. I think he asked me if I was okay. I said, yeah, oh, yeah, I guess. And anyways, so in the power of Jesus, the man lifted the car up enough for me to get out from under it. And I crawled out, as best I could. And then I remember his back was backed up for a while. I don't remember how long. But it was quite a testimony, really. Cars are not light. This one was, it wasn't a real heavy car, but still, a car is a car. And the second part of that testimony is when we were putting in the new bell housing, that's what connects the transmission to the motor, and putting in the new pressure plate clutch and flywheel from a standard 11-inch to a 12-inch racing clutch, but more surface, more power, more traction. Then we were tightening down these bolts, and when we did, I can't remember if Gerald snapped one or I snapped one. Anyway, the bolt got broken off. So we took it off, took the pressure plate off, and the flywheel where the bolts bolt into. Flywheel is a giant, 50 to 100 pound, about an inch and a half thick piece of steel, where it smashes the clutch. The pressure plate smashes the clutch to the flywheel and transfers the energy from the engine to the clutch, to the pressure plate, to the drive shaft, through the transmission, and makes the wheels spin. And so we took it in. Well, what happened was, for some reason, they couldn't get it out. So they bored a bigger hole and retapped it. But a flywheel has to be balanced because it spins at such high speeds. And so off to boot camp I go. We put it all back together with a drilled and tapped new hole with a bigger bolt, which threw the balance off. But we didn't even know or think about that. So I go to boot camp, come back home. The car's almost done. This thing would actually pull the wheels off the ground because of the weight transfer, and the 350 was pretty potent back in those days, and Gerald knew what he was doing. So we get home, and I don't know. We said, "Well, let's go for a ride." It was Sunday afternoon after church or whatever. It was a nice sunny day, so we would go out to it's kind of an abandoned highway. I can't really remember the name of it, but maybe States Highway or something. But anyway, so I line it up and says, "You ready to go?" And, oh yeah. So Gerald's over there, and I'm over here, and I just give it the go, And I'm going to shift it at 5,000, and so I take it right up, and we're taking off. We're both pinned back, and the second I tap the clutch, uh, the car was just a big cloud of smoke, but it wasn't really smoke. The pressure plate, and we didn't have a protective cage around the bell housing. The pressure plate came loose from the flywheel, came up, hit my right leg, A-framed the steering column, so I couldn't steer. So when this happened, of course, the motor, I let off the gas. I said, "Gerald, I can't steer the car." And I couldn't even see him. He says, "Well, hit the brakes." And I said, "Okay." So I hit the brakes, and that got us to a stop. And things started to clear out, but I didn't know it had A-framed at its time. So I looked over to Gerald, and he's got a couple little pieces of bell housing, aluminum bell housing, in his head, and that smoke was the oil pressure gauge. It had seared the line, and of course, at higher RPMs, it just atomized the oil into the car. So we came to a stop. Of course, we weren't going anywhere. The car was done. And we went back. It blew a hole in the road about 12 inches. But that pressure plate could have took my leg right off completely. It just nicked, put about a 1-inch gash in the side of my leg as it came up an A-frame, the steering column. So God once again interceded in both of these with a car and another man that I love dearly. I'm sure he remembers it as vividly as I do. Have a blessed day in the Lord. Get in the Word, stay in the Word, that you may rightly divide the Word. Good day.